I woke up at 6:30 in the morning, and like every day for the past 3 years since my Parkinson's diagnosis, my hands were already trembling before my feet even touched the floor. The pill bottle sat on my nightstand, filled with levodopa, my lifeline, the medication that was supposed to give me back control of my body. I took it religiously, same dose, same time, never missed a single pill. But here's what nobody told me when I started this medication journey, and what I didn't fully understand until I dove deep into the research myself as a neurologist who now lives with this disease. It wasn't working the way it should. Some mornings I'd take my pill, and within 30 minutes I could feel my body responding, muscles relaxing, tremors calming down, and I could finally button my shirt without struggling. Other mornings I'd take that same pill and wait and wait. An hour would pass, and I'd still be shaking, still stiff, still trapped in a body that wouldn't cooperate. I couldn't understand it at first. Same medication, same dose, same person, but completely different results. It was driving me crazy because I needed predictability. I needed to know that when I took my medication, I could count on it working so I could plan my day, see my patients, attend medical conferences, spend time with my grandchildren without worrying about whether my body would cooperate. That's when I started digging into the medical literature with a personal urgency I'd never felt before in my career. As a physician, I'd prescribed levodopa to hundreds of patients over the years, but I'd never truly understood the nuances of how diet affects its absorption until I was the one experiencing these frustrating fluctuations. I pulled up study after study on my computer, reaching out to colleagues who specialized in movement disorders, attending specialized conferences, and that's when I discovered something that fundamentally changed how I approach not just my own treatment, but how I counsel every single Parkinson's patient I see. The answer was hiding in plain sight, right there on my breakfast plate. Levodopa, the main medication most of us with Parkinson's take, competes directly with dietary protein for absorption in your gut. Let me say that again because it's so critical and yet so often overlooked in standard patient education. Your medication and the protein in your food are fighting for the same pathway to get into your bloodstream. When you eat a high-protein breakfast and take your levodopa at the same time, the protein wins. The amino acids from your eggs, your Greek yogurt, your bacon, your protein shake, they're all rushing to get absorbed through the same gateway that your medication needs to use. The result is that your medication gets blocked, delayed, or only partially absorbed. Some days I was having my usual scrambled eggs with cheese and turkey sausage for breakfast, taking my pill right after like a responsible patient, and essentially sabotaging my own treatment without even knowing it. The pharmacokinetics behind this interaction are actually fascinating once you understand the mechanism. Levodopa is classified as a large neutral amino acid, specifically an aromatic amino acid. Your intestines have specific transport proteins called large neutral amino acid transporters, or LAT1 carriers if you want the technical term, that move these molecules from your gut lumen across the intestinal wall and into your bloodstream. These same transporters are responsible for absorbing several amino acids from dietary protein, including phenylalanine, tyrosine, tryptophan, leucine, isoleucine, valine, methionine, and histidine. When you consume a protein-rich meal around the same time you take your levodopa, you create what we call competitive inhibition at the transporter level. Think of it like this. You have a limited number of doors, these LAT1 transporters, and suddenly you've got hundreds of amino acid molecules and levodopa molecules all trying to squeeze through those same doors simultaneously. Since there are usually far more amino acids from your food than levodopa molecules from your pill, the dietary amino acids effectively crowd out your medication at the absorption site. It's basic biochemistry and pharmacology, but the clinical implications are profound. This is why patients experience what we call delayed on time, unpredictable motor fluctuations, or what seems like reduced medication effectiveness. The medication itself hasn't failed. The therapeutic compound hasn't degraded. It simply never got the opportunity to be absorbed efficiently because the transport mechanism was saturated with competing substrates. I decided to conduct a personal case study on myself, something I'd never had to do before as a physician. For 2 weeks, I meticulously tracked everything using a detailed symptom diary. I documented exactly what I ate for breakfast, the precise macronutrient breakdown when possible, exactly when I took my medication down to the minute, and I rated my motor function hour by hour using the standard UPDRS motor subscale that we use in clinical practice. I measured my tremor amplitude, my finger tapping speed, my ability to perform rapid alternating movements,
my walking speed and stride length.
The data became absolutely crystal clear. On days when I consumed protein-heavy breakfasts containing 25 to 35 grams of protein, things like a 3-egg omelet with cheese, turkey sausage, and whole milk, my medication onset was delayed to 75 to 90 minutes post-dose. And even then, the therapeutic effect was noticeably diminished. My UPDRS motor scores during the on period were still 15 to 20% worse than they should have been. On days when I restricted my breakfast to lower protein options containing less than 10 grams of protein, items like steel-cut oatmeal with berries, whole grain toast with avocado and tomato, or a smoothie made with fruits and vegetables and low-protein plant milk, my medication started working in 30 to 45 minutes, and the therapeutic effect was dramatically stronger. My motor scores improved by 30 to 40% compared to the high-protein breakfast days. This wasn't subjective impression. This was quantifiable, measurable data from standardized clinical assessment tools. I shared this discovery at my next Parkinson's support group meeting, a group I'd actually started facilitating after my diagnosis because I wanted to give back to the community I now belong to. The response was overwhelming. Almost everyone in the group, people at various stages of the disease and on different medication regimens, had experienced these frustrating fluctuations, but nobody had connected the dots to their breakfast choices. Their physicians, good doctors, doing their best with limited time in 15-minute appointments, simply hadn't emphasized this dietary interaction strongly enough or provided specific enough guidance. One of my patients, a woman named Patricia, who'd been under my care for 4 years, told me she'd been struggling with morning akinesia, so severe she couldn't get dressed without her husband's help, couldn't brush her teeth independently, couldn't prepare her own breakfast, even though she was taking her levodopa exactly as prescribed at the right dose and the right intervals. When I explained this protein interaction to her in detail, and we restructured her breakfast protocol together, she got her mornings back within a week. She could shower independently, dress herself, do light meal prep, even do some gentle stretching exercises before the medication wore off. Her husband was amazed. She was emotional telling me about it because she thought she was just deteriorating and that nothing could be done about this progressive loss of function. Now, before we continue, I want to hear from you, whether you're living with Parkinson's yourself or you're a caregiver helping someone manage this disease. Have you noticed that medication effectiveness varies significantly from day to day? Have you experienced mornings where your levodopa seems to barely work despite taking it consistently? Share your experience in the comments below, because your observations could provide valuable insights for other people navigating the same challenges. This protein and medication interaction is something that doesn't get nearly enough emphasis in standard neurology training or in typical patient counseling sessions, and the result is that thousands of patients are struggling unnecessarily with suboptimal symptom control that could be dramatically improved with strategic dietary timing. Once I fully understood the pharmacological problem, I needed to develop a practical clinical solution that would work not just for me, but for any patient I might recommend it to. The goal was never to eliminate protein from the diet, which would be not only impractical but actually dangerous given that adequate protein intake is essential for maintaining muscle mass, supporting immune function, facilitating neurotransmitter synthesis, and preventing sarcopenia, which is a major concern in Parkinson's disease. The goal was strategic temporal separation between levodopa dosing and protein consumption. I needed to create what I now call a medication optimization breakfast protocol that would maximize levodopa bioavailability while still providing adequate nutrition, sustained energy, and practical feasibility for real-world implementation. Here's the evidence-based protocol I developed through literature review, personal experimentation, and now years of clinical experience implementing it with my patients. The protocol begins the moment you wake up. I take my levodopa on a completely empty stomach immediately upon waking, ideally at the same time every day to maintain consistent plasma levels. I take it with 8 to 12 ounces of room temperature or slightly warm water, not cold water which can slow gastric emptying, and definitely not with coffee, juice, or milk at this stage. Then comes the critical waiting period. This is typically the most challenging part of the protocol for patients because when you're experiencing morning akinesia, tremor, rigidity, and you're hungry after an overnight fast, waiting feels interminable. But this 30 to 60-minute window is absolutely non-negotiable from a pharmacokinetic standpoint. During this waiting period, the levodopa has exclusive access to the intestinal LAT1 transporters. There's no competition from dietary amino acids, no interference from food matrices that might slow dissolution or absorption, no gastric content that might delay stomach emptying. The medication molecules can move efficiently from the stomach to the small intestine, cross the intestinal epithelium via the unoccupied transporters, enter the bloodstream, cross the blood-brain barrier using the LAT1 transporters there, and finally get converted to dopamine by the enzyme aromatic L-amino acid decarboxylase in the striatum where it's needed. This is optimal pharmacokinetic absorption. This is what you want to achieve. This is what provides maximum therapeutic benefit from your prescribed dose. After approximately 30 to 40 minutes, I start to feel the medication engaging. The tremor amplitude decreases, the muscle rigidity diminishes, the bradykinesia improves, and I regain more normal motor control. This motor function improvement tells me that the levodopa has been absorbed, has crossed into the central nervous system, and has been converted to dopamine that's now acting on the depleted dopamine receptors in my basal ganglia. That's the signal that it's now safe to consume breakfast without compromising the medication I've already absorbed. But here's where the specifics really matter from a nutritional and practical standpoint. The breakfast I consume during this post-medication window needs to be low in protein, specifically containing less than 10 grams of total protein, while still being nutritionally adequate, providing sustained energy through complex carbohydrates and healthy fats, delivering essential micronutrients, and being satisfying enough that I'm not hungry again in 90 minutes. One of my primary breakfast options that meets all these criteria is steel-cut oats prepared with water or unsweetened almond milk, which contains less than 1 gram of protein per cup compared to cow's milk, which has 8 grams per cup. The oats themselves provide about 5 grams of protein per half-cup dry measure, which cooks up to approximately 1.5 cups cooked. I top this with fresh or frozen blueberries, which provide anthocyanins and flavonoids that emerging research suggests may have neuroprotective properties potentially beneficial in neurodegenerative diseases, sliced banana for potassium and natural sweetness, a small drizzle of pure maple syrup or honey for additional carbohydrates, and a generous sprinkle of cinnamon, which some preliminary studies suggest may help with insulin sensitivity and has anti-inflammatory properties. The complete meal provides complex carbohydrates for sustained energy release, soluble fiber, particularly beta-glucan from the oats, which supports cardiovascular health and helps with the constipation that's so common in Parkinson's disease, antioxidants from the berries, and approximately 6 to 7 grams of total protein, well within the acceptable range that won't significantly interfere with any residual medication absorption. Another breakfast rotation option I frequently utilize is whole grain sourdough toast. 2 slices, with half a medium avocado mashed and spread on top, topped with sliced tomatoes, a small amount of everything bagel seasoning or nutritional yeast for flavor, and sometimes a few leaves of arugula or spinach for additional micronutrients. Avocado provides about 2 grams of protein per half avocado, but is rich in monounsaturated fatty acids, particularly oleic acid, which is the same healthy fat found in olive oil and has been associated with anti-inflammatory effects and potentially brain health benefits. The whole grain bread provides complex carbohydrates and additional fiber. The tomatoes add lycopene, vitamin C, and potassium. The complete meal feels more substantial and savory, which I appreciate on days when I'm not inclined towards something sweet, and it provides approximately 8 grams of total protein, still well below the threshold that would cause significant LAT1 transporter competition. On days when I want something quick and easy to consume, particularly if I'm experiencing any dysphagia or throat tightness which can occur in Parkinson's, I prepare a smoothie using frozen mixed berries, usually a combination of strawberries, blueberries, and raspberries. 1 frozen banana which makes the texture creamy without needing dairy or protein powder. A generous handful of fresh spinach, which you can't taste but adds folate, vitamin K, iron, and other micronutrients. I blend this thoroughly until completely smooth and consume it slowly. This smoothie provides approximately 3 to 4 grams of total protein, is easy to swallow, is nutrient-dense, provides antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds, and is highly tolerable even on mornings when solid food feels difficult to manage. When I want something even simpler, perhaps on a busy morning when I'm rushing to get to the hospital, I'll have 2 brown rice cakes topped with 1 tablespoon of almond butter spread thinly, not thickly, which would increase the protein too much, and fresh strawberry slices arranged on top. The almond butter provides approximately 3 to 4 grams of protein per tablespoon, along with vitamin E and healthy fats. I'll have a small banana or apple on the side for additional carbohydrates and fiber. The complete meal takes less than 5 minutes to prepare and provides approximately 5 to 6 grams of total protein. The timeline I follow religiously, both for myself and what I recommend to my patients, is structured and consistent. 6:30 a.m., I take my levodopa with water on an empty stomach. 7 to 7:15 a.m., after waiting the appropriate absorption window and feeling the medication engage, I consume my low-protein breakfast. 9:30 to 10 a.m., I have what I call my protein repletion meal. This is when I deliberately consume higher protein foods: the eggs, the Greek yogurt, the cottage cheese, the lean turkey or chicken, the legumes, the tofu, all the protein-rich foods that are critically important for maintaining muscle mass, supporting immune function, providing essential amino acids for neurotransmitter synthesis, and meeting overall nutritional requirements. By this time point, my morning dose of levodopa has been fully absorbed and is providing therapeutic benefit, so consuming protein at this time will not interfere with that already absorbed medication. Though I do need to be mindful that if I take another dose of levodopa later in the day, I'll need to apply similar timing principles around that dose as well. This mid-morning protein meal might consist of a 2 or 3 egg omelet, prepared with vegetables like peppers, onions, mushrooms, and spinach, cooked in a small amount of olive oil. Or it might be a bowl of plain Greek yogurt with a measured portion of mixed nuts, seeds like pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds, and a small amount of berries for flavor. Or it might be a turkey and cheese roll-up with cherry tomatoes and cucumber slices on the side. The goal is to consume approximately 20 to 30 grams of high-quality protein in this meal, bringing my morning total protein intake to a level that supports my physiological needs without having compromised my medication absorption during the critical early morning period. Now let's discuss exact portions, because this is where patients often struggle with implementation. Even during the low-protein breakfast window, adequate caloric intake and portion size are important to prevent hunger, maintain energy levels, and support overall nutrition. A portion of oatmeal that's inadequate will leave you hypoglycemic and fatigued by mid-morning, which doesn't serve anyone's interests. I use 1/2 cup of dry steel-cut oats, measured precisely, which after cooking with 1 1/4 cups of water or almond milk, yields approximately 1 1/2 cups of cooked oatmeal, a substantial and satisfying portion. I add 1 cup of berries, either fresh or frozen, and 1 medium banana sliced. For the toast and avocado preparation, I use 2 slices of whole grain bread, each slice typically providing about 80 to 90 calories, and exactly half of a medium to large avocado measured carefully. For the smoothie preparation, I use 1 1/2 cups of frozen mixed berries measured, 1 whole frozen banana, 2 cups of loosely packed fresh spinach, 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed measured, and 1 cup of unsweetened almond milk. These specific measured portions provide adequate calories, typically between 350 to 450 calories for the breakfast meal, adequate carbohydrates for energy, adequate fiber for gut health, and keep protein content reliably below 10 grams. One practical issue I had to address was coffee, because like many physicians and like many people in general, I'm quite attached to my morning coffee ritual, and giving it up felt like one sacrifice too many. Here's what the pharmacology literature tells us. Coffee and caffeine do not directly interfere with levodopa absorption at the intestinal transporter level. However, coffee can affect gastric pH and gastric emptying time, which are secondary factors in medication absorption. The strategy I developed and now recommend is this. After taking the levodopa with water, I wait 15 to 20 minutes, which allows the medication to pass from the stomach into the small intestine where absorption actually occurs, and then I have my first cup of black coffee or coffee with just a small splash of almond milk. Some studies have actually suggested that caffeine may modestly potentiate the therapeutic effects of levodopa, possibly through adenosine receptor antagonism in the brain, which is an interesting potential benefit. I keep the coffee simple during that first hour, avoiding any protein-containing additions like regular milk, half and half, or protein powder. Later in the morning, after my medication is fully active, and I've consumed my low-protein breakfast, I can add whatever I want to subsequent cups of coffee, if I choose to have more. The precise timing of this protocol needs individualization based on each patient's specific medication regimen, dosing schedule, and the number of daily levodopa doses. Some patients take levodopa 3 times daily, some 4 times, some 5 or even 6 times in advanced disease with motor complications. For the first dose of the day, which is typically the most important for initiating morning motor function and setting the tone for the day, this low-protein breakfast approach makes the most dramatic clinical difference in my experience. For subsequent doses throughout the day, the strategy requires adjustment based on meal timing and daily schedule. What I do personally, and what I recommend to patients, is to try to take midday and afternoon doses approximately 45 to 60 minutes before meals when the schedule permits, or if dosing with a meal is necessary due to timing constraints. Ensure that meal is lower in protein, with the bulk of protein reserved for a snack or small meal an hour or more after the medication. For the evening dose, many patients prefer to have their higher protein dinner, and that's often acceptable because the evening dose may be less critical for function depending on the patient's activity level after dinner. However, some patients do better with a protein redistribution approach where they minimize protein throughout the entire day and consume the majority of their daily protein allowance at dinner after the final levodopa dose, which some research suggests can optimize medication response throughout the waking hours. Let me be completely transparent with you about the clinical outcomes I've observed implementing this protocol. My own morning motor function improved by what I would quantify, based on standardized rating scales and objective measures, as approximately 60 to 70% in terms of consistency and predictability. I'm not claiming the medication works perfectly every single time now, because there are multiple variables affecting medication response that I cannot control, including stress levels, sleep quality and architecture, concurrent illness, hydration status, gut motility variations, and probably factors we don't yet fully understand. But the day-to-day unpredictability has been largely eliminated. I know with reasonable confidence that when I take my medication following this protocol, I can expect therapeutic onset within 30 to 45 minutes and a robust on period. That predictability has restored a sense of agency and control that I'd lost. I can schedule patient appointments, hospital rounds, surgical observations, medical lectures in the morning, and have confidence I'll be able to perform my clinical duties without excessive tremor interfering with examinations or procedures. I can plan family activities, attend my grandson's baseball games, go out for breakfast with my wife, and know I'll have adequate motor control. I can continue doing fine motor tasks that are important to me professionally and personally. The cost-effectiveness of implementing this protocol is remarkable and worth emphasizing, particularly in our healthcare system, where treatment costs are a significant burden for many patients. Oats, bananas, whole grain bread, and frozen berries are among the most economical foods available. A container of steel-cut oats costing approximately $4 provides enough servings for 2 to 3 weeks. A bag of frozen mixed berries typically costs $4 to $6 and provides berries for many meals. Compare these minimal costs to the expense of Parkinson's medications, which even with insurance can cost hundreds of dollars monthly, neurologist visits with copays, additional symptomatic medications that might be prescribed if primary medications aren't optimally effective, or the potential costs associated with falls, injuries, or functional decline when symptoms are poorly controlled. This dietary modification strategy is extraordinarily cost-effective. You're not purchasing expensive pharmaceutical-grade supplements, specialty medical foods, or proprietary nutritional products. You're simply being strategic about the timing of regular, affordable, widely available whole foods that are probably already part of your normal shopping routine. An unexpected benefit I observed, which several of my patients have also reported, is improvement in constipation, one of the most common and bothersome non-motor symptoms of Parkinson's disease. The combination of consuming more fiber-rich foods like oats, fruits, and vegetables in the morning, plus the fact that improved levodopa absorption leads to better dopaminergic tone, which actually improves gut motility since dopamine receptors exist throughout the gastrointestinal tract, resulted in more regular bowel function. I had been using fiber supplements, stool softeners, and occasionally osmotic laxatives for months with modest benefit, but the improvement from optimizing my breakfast composition and medication timing was more substantial. It's one of those systemic benefits you don't anticipate, but that significantly affects quality of life, because constipation in Parkinson's can be severe and very distressing. Another patient of mine, a gentleman named Robert, who's had Parkinson's for 7 years and was one of my earliest patients when I first started practicing neurology, tried this breakfast protocol after I presented the scientific rationale at our support group. He was frankly skeptical initially. He'd been eating the same breakfast for 40 years 3 eggs scrambled with bacon and cheddar cheese every single morning, and he was resistant to change. But his medication effectiveness had been declining progressively. He was experiencing significant morning akinesia and wearing off between doses, and I had been discussing with him the possibility of increasing his levodopa dose or adding a co-MT inhibitor to prolong medication duration. Robert agreed to trial the low-protein breakfast approach for 1 month as an experiment before we escalated his pharmacotherapy. He came to my office after 3 weeks, and I could see the difference before he even sat down. His gait was more fluid, his arm swing was better, his facial expression was more animated. He told me that within the first week of implementing the breakfast modification, he noticed his medication was engaging faster, and the therapeutic effect was lasting longer into the morning. By week 3, his morning tremor had improved enough that he could write legibly again, something he hadn't been able to do in 18 months, which was particularly important to him because he liked to do crossword puzzles and write letters to his grandchildren. His motor UPDRS score improved by 8 points, which is clinically significant. We agreed to defer any medication adjustments and continue with the dietary timing strategy, which he's now maintained successfully for over 2 years. He still eats his eggs and bacon. He's just eating them at 10 a.m. instead of 7 a.m., and that simple temporal modification changed his entire disease management trajectory. Now let's discuss practical implementation strategies, because understanding what to do intellectually and actually executing it consistently in real life are vastly different challenges. Meal planning becomes not just helpful, but essential when following this protocol. I dedicate approximately 30 minutes every Sunday evening to planning breakfast options for the upcoming week and ensuring I have all necessary ingredients. I purchase multiple bananas at different stages of ripeness, knowing some will be ready to eat immediately, while others will ripen later in the week, and I peel and freeze overripe bananas in freezer bags for smoothies, which actually improves smoothie texture. I maintain a constant supply of steel-cut oats in my pantry, and I bulk purchase frozen berries when they're on sale because they have an extended freezer shelf life. I keep a loaf of whole grain bread in the freezer and remove slices as needed to prevent spoilage and waste. Having these components readily available eliminates decision fatigue in the morning and removes barriers to protocol adherence on days when I'm symptomatic, fatigued, or simply not feeling well. Advanced preparation the evening before can dramatically streamline morning execution. If I know I'm planning oatmeal, I can measure the dry oats into a bowl, portion the berries into a small container in the refrigerator, and have everything staged so that in the morning I simply add liquid, microwave, and add toppings. If I'm planning toast with avocado, I can slice the avocado the previous evening and store it in an airtight container with a small amount of lemon juice squeezed over the cut surfaces to prevent enzymatic browning. These preparatory steps, which take mere minutes, eliminate obstacles and substantially increase the likelihood of successful protocol adherence, even on difficult mornings when motor symptoms are worse, or cognitive function is impaired, or I'm simply overwhelmed. Eating breakfast at restaurants requires strategic navigation of typically protein-heavy menus. Most American breakfast offerings center on eggs, meat, dairy, and protein, so you have to be intentional and specific with your ordering. I'll order oatmeal if it's available on the menu, or I'll order whole wheat toast with avocado and tomato and explicitly request that they omit the eggs, bacon, or sausage that usually accompany it. Some establishments offer fruit and yogurt parfaits, and I'll order that but request extra fruit and light yogurt to moderate the protein concentration. Pancakes or waffles with fruit can work if you decline the side of eggs and meat. The key is clear, specific communication with the server about your needs. And I've found that when you briefly explain you have a medical condition requiring specific meal timing, most restaurants are very accommodating with reasonable modifications. Traveling presents particular logistical challenges, but it's absolutely manageable with advanced planning. I pack individual servings of instant oatmeal packets in my luggage, along with small bags of dried fruit, nuts for later consumption after medication absorption, and shelf-stable items like rice cakes. Most hotels provide hot water for coffee preparation, and that same hot water can prepare instant oatmeal. I also pack protein bars, though I save these for my mid-morning protein meal, not the initial breakfast. For longer trips or when I'm staying somewhere with a kitchenette, I scout out nearby grocery stores before the trip using smartphone maps and plan a shopping trip upon arrival to purchase fresh fruit, bread, avocados, and other perishable breakfast components that fit the protocol. For international travel, I research typical breakfast foods available in that region and identify options that will work with my timing needs. One of the most important principles I emphasize to patients is that perfection is not the objective here. This is not about rigid adherence to rules that make your life more difficult or that create additional stress and anxiety. It's about understanding the pharmacokinetic and physiologic principles so that you can make informed choices most of the time that optimize your treatment outcomes. I estimate I follow this protocol with high fidelity approximately 85 to 90% of the time, and that consistency is sufficient to achieve substantial clinical benefit. The remaining 10 to 15% of the time, there are special occasions, travel disruptions, illness, social events, or simply days when I choose flexibility over optimization, and that's acceptable. This is about improving quality of life, not creating another source of rigidity and restriction. It's also essential to emphasize that this breakfast protocol works most effectively when integrated into a comprehensive, multidisciplinary Parkinson's disease management approach. Exercise is absolutely critical for maintaining motor function, preventing complications, and possibly providing neuroprotective benefits. I participate in physical therapy 3 times weekly, focusing on balance, gait training, flexibility, and strengthening. I walk for 30 to 40 minutes daily, at a moderately brisk pace. I do Tai Chi once a week, which research suggests may benefit balance and reduce fall risk in Parkinson's patients. Sleep quality is enormously important because poor sleep worsens essentially every Parkinson's symptom, and I've worked with a sleep specialist to optimize my sleep hygiene and address REM sleep behavior disorder. Stress management is crucial because psychological stress exacerbates tremor, rigidity, and other motor symptoms even when medication is on board. I practice mindfulness meditation. I've learned to set appropriate boundaries and decline commitments that would create excessive stress. And I see a therapist who specializes in chronic illness adjustment. The breakfast protocol is one component of a larger integrated management strategy, but it's a particularly important component because medication optimization is truly foundational to everything else. For those of you who are caregivers, family members, or healthcare providers supporting someone with Parkinson's, understanding this protein and medication interaction and being able to help implement this protocol can be transformative. You can assist with meal planning, prepare low-protein breakfast components in advance, create systems and routines that make adherence easier, and provide gentle reminders about timing when needed. Sometimes the person with Parkinson's is experiencing cognitive changes, executive dysfunction, or simply disease-related apathy that makes planning and organizing very difficult. And that's where caregiver involvement becomes not just helpful, but necessary. You can set out medication with water on the bedside table the evening before. You can prepare breakfast ingredients ahead of time. You can offer supportive accountability without being controlling or critical. Your informed, compassionate involvement can mean the difference between a protocol that succeeds and improves quality of life and one that fails because it's too complex to manage independently. I also want to address the emotional and psychological dimensions of disease management because Parkinson's affects far more than just motor function. It's emotionally exhausting to have to think carefully about every single thing you eat and precisely when you eat it. It's frustrating to have a disease that demands this level of constant attention, planning, and cognitive effort just to achieve basic function. There are absolutely days when I feel angry that I can't simply wake up, take my medication with whatever breakfast I want, and go about my day the way someone without Parkinson's would. I've experienced moments of genuine grief over the loss of spontaneity and the burden of constant disease management. And I think it's critical to acknowledge and validate those feelings rather than minimizing them or expecting people to maintain relentless positivity. This is genuinely difficult. Managing Parkinson's disease requires enormous effort and takes a psychological toll. But here's what I've come to understand through my own experience and through working with hundreds of patients. Taking active control of the modifiable factors like breakfast composition and medication timing actually helps mitigate some of that emotional burden. It shifts the experience from one of passive helplessness and victimhood to one of active agency and self-efficacy. When I observe my medication working more effectively because of strategic choices I've made, I feel empowered rather than defeated. It doesn't eliminate the disease or the challenge, but it does provide a sense of meaningful control over an aspect of this condition. The scientific evidence supporting protein redistribution and strategic protein timing in Parkinson's disease continues to grow, and more movement disorder specialists are incorporating these recommendations into standard patient education. Research studies have demonstrated that patients who follow protein redistribution diets minimizing protein during the day and concentrating intake in the evening after the final levodopa dose, experience measurably improved medication response, reduced motor fluctuations, and better quality of life outcomes. While I personally don't advocate for complete daytime protein restriction, which I find difficult for most patients to sustain long-term, the underlying principle of separating protein consumption from levodopa dosing by appropriate time intervals is scientifically sound and clinically beneficial. Some patients do choose to follow more strict protein redistribution approaches, consuming almost all daily protein at dinner, and they report excellent results with that strategy. The advantage of understanding the science is that you can experiment within evidence-based parameters and identify what works optimally for your individual physiology, lifestyle, preferences, and disease characteristics. Let me provide very specific examples of what my breakfast protocol looks like across a typical week to make this maximally concrete and actionable. Monday, I prepare steel-cut oatmeal with 1/2 cup dry oats cooked with water, topped with 1 cup of fresh blueberries, 1 medium-sliced banana, 1 teaspoon of honey, and cinnamon. Total protein approximately 6 grams. Tuesday, I make a smoothie with 1 cup frozen strawberries, 1/2 cup frozen mango, 1 frozen banana, 2 cups fresh spinach, 1 tablespoon ground flaxseed, and 1 cup unsweetened almond milk. Total protein approximately 3 grams. Wednesday, I have 2 slices whole wheat sourdough toast with 1/2 medium avocado mashed on top, 1 medium tomato sliced, and everything bagel seasoning. Total protein approximately 8 grams. Thursday, I return to oatmeal but modify the toppings using 1 diced apple, 2 tablespoons raisins, and 1 teaspoon maple syrup. Total protein approximately 6 grams. Friday, I have 2 brown rice cakes with 1 tablespoon almond butter spread thin and 1 cup sliced strawberries, plus 1 small banana. Total protein approximately 5 grams. Saturday and Sunday, I might purchase something from a local bakery like a lower protein muffin, avoiding those with nuts or high protein grains, or a fruit Danish, paired with fresh fruit, keeping protein minimal and reserving my heartier protein-rich breakfast for mid-morning. The variety prevents dietary monotony, and the consistent protein range optimizes medication absorption. For patients who are newly diagnosed with Parkinson's and just initiating levodopa therapy, I strongly encourage incorporating awareness of this protein timing issue from the very beginning of treatment. Don't wait months or years until you're struggling with medication, unpredictability, and motor fluctuations to address this. Build the habit early of taking medication on an empty stomach, waiting appropriately before breakfast, and selecting lower protein options for that first meal. This proactive approach will save enormous frustration and potentially prevent the need for premature dose escalations or addition of adjunctive medications. Discuss this explicitly with your neurologist, and if your doctor is not familiar with the extensive research literature on protein and levodopa interaction, which unfortunately some general neurologists are not, since this is more specialized movement disorder knowledge, bring published studies to your appointment. There is substantial peer-reviewed scientific literature on this topic in journals like Movement Disorders, Neurology, and the Journal of Neurology, Neurosurgery, and Psychiatry, and any conscientious physician will be interested in evidence-based strategies that can enhance medication effectiveness without increasing pharmaceutical burden. As Parkinson's disease progresses and medication regimens become more complex, often involving multiple daily levodopa doses, COMT inhibitors, MAO-B inhibitors, dopamine agonists, and other adjunctive agents, this breakfast protocol and the broader principle of strategic protein timing remain highly relevant and often become even more critical. Later-stage disease frequently involves more pronounced motor fluctuations, unpredictable on-off periods, dyskinesias, and wearing-off phenomena, which makes optimizing levodopa absorption and maintaining stable plasma levels increasingly important. Some patients at advanced stages work closely with specialized dietitians, ideally those with experience in movement disorders, to implement very strict protein redistribution plans because the impact on motor function and quality of life is so profound that the dietary restrictions feel justified and worthwhile. I want to emphasize something absolutely critical here that sometimes gets misunderstood. This breakfast protocol is emphatically not about restricting overall protein intake or reducing total daily protein consumption. You are not cutting protein out of your diet. You are not following some form of protein-restricted diet that leaves you nutritionally deficient or at risk for malnutrition and muscle wasting. Adequate protein intake is essential for maintaining muscle mass and strength, which is critically important in Parkinson's given the risks of sarcopenia, falls, and loss of functional independence. Protein is necessary for immune function, for synthesizing neurotransmitters including dopamine itself from the amino acid tyrosine, for wound healing, and for countless other physiological processes. The total quantity of protein you consume per day should remain appropriate for your body weight, activity level, and overall health status, typically 0.8 to 1 gram per kilogram body weight for most adults, potentially slightly higher for older adults, or those very physically active. You are simply redistributing when you consume that protein. Instead of consuming 30 grams at breakfast, you might consume 8 grams at breakfast and then 22 grams at your mid-morning meal. The daily total remains constant. The timing is modified. That temporal redistribution is the key intervention here. Hydration is another factor affecting medication absorption that deserves attention. Taking levodopa with adequate fluid, specifically 8 to 12 ounces of water, helps the tablet or capsule dissolve appropriately and promotes gastric emptying into the small intestine where absorption occurs. I use a full glass of water with my morning dose, not just a sip. Maintaining good hydration throughout the day also supports overall gastrointestinal function, which is often compromised in Parkinson's disease due to autonomic dysfunction affecting gut motility. I keep a water bottle with me throughout the day and aim for approximately 6 to 8 glasses of fluid daily, adjusted for activity level, climate, and individual needs. Dehydration can worsen constipation, which is already highly prevalent in Parkinson's, can contribute to orthostatic hypotension, which many patients experience, and can cause fatigue and cognitive dysfunction. Adequate hydration is a simple intervention that supports multiple aspects of disease management. The feedback I've received from patients who have implemented this breakfast protocol over the years I've been recommending it has been consistently positive and often quite dramatic. Patients report improved morning motor function, more predictable medication response, longer duration of on-time, reduced motor fluctuations, and importantly, a greater sense of control and self-efficacy in managing their disease. Some have been able to avoid or delay medication dose increases that had seemed inevitable. Some have experienced improvement in non-motor symptoms like constipation as a secondary benefit. The psychological impact of making a dietary modification and observing tangible, measurable improvement in symptoms is profound because it reinforces the reality that patients are not passive victims of this disease, that there are evidence-based strategies available that can meaningfully affect outcomes and quality of life. If this video brought valuable information to you, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to receive alerts about new content. I share practical, evidence-based strategies every week aimed at helping you live as well as possible with Parkinson's disease. Our community consists of patients, caregivers, healthcare providers, and researchers, all committed to education, mutual support, and advancing understanding of this complex condition. Living with Parkinson's presents enormous challenges, but you don't have to navigate this journey alone or reinvent solutions that others have already discovered. There are proven, scientifically validated strategies like this breakfast protocol that can make a genuine, measurable difference in daily function and quality of life. Share this video with others who might benefit from understanding the relationship between dietary protein timing and levodopa effectiveness. Leave a comment describing your biggest challenge in managing Parkinson's medication, because sharing our experiences creates learning opportunities for everyone and strengthens this community. You are not alone in facing these challenges. There is an entire community of people dealing with similar struggles, discovering solutions, supporting one another, and advocating for better care and research. Take the information you've learned today and implement it systematically. Give the protocol at least 2 to 3 weeks of consistent effort before evaluating effectiveness, because it takes time to establish new habits and to observe patterns. Track your results carefully using a symptom diary, pay close attention to how you feel and function, and adjust the approach as needed based on your individual response. This is your health, your body, and your journey. You have more agency and control than you might realize, and sometimes a strategic modification of breakfast composition and timing can be the intervention that transforms your mornings and restores function and independence you thought were permanently lost.